So then moving on to the collaborative question. Before we look at the rubric, I want to clarify what we've done differently. So in the past, students would gather in these rooms, mixed in with kids from other schools, right? They would be handed, generally speaking, I believe they got some kind of a background brief about a week before the event that just gave them some basic information. And then they show up on the day and they're handed the whole packet, and they're told, and the packet then includes the background brief that they've probably already read, but then also the crisis or situation and all of the projects. And they're given 5 minutes to read it. Okay, last year what I saw was a lot of, right, kids trying to pretend that they were going to read, knowing that their own reading skills were not up to par to do it in 5 minutes, and giving up within 2. I mean, really giving up. You can see it as a teacher the moment the eyes glaze over. So what kind of substantive dialogue are we going to get out of that, right? So my thought was, let's try, I mean, I was raised in progressive experiential education, so I should clarify that before I get into this stuff. But my thought was, why not turn this into more of an inquiry event, okay? So the students are going to receive, as always, they're going to receive the background brief on Monday before the World Affairs Challenge, but they're also going to receive the situation. They're going to receive the crisis itself. They're going to know what the problem is that they're going to be asked to solve, but they're not going to have the solutions yet, or the projects themselves, okay? That gives them several days to really take in this topic and think about it. Now, wow, with all these problems that Yemen is facing, all these things going on in Yemen, what would be the solutions? Get them thinking on their own for a few days first. Then they'll come to the event, and what we're going to do is, we've had complaints in the past that there's a lot of downtime, right? Time when the students weren't presenting or performing, and they didn't really have enough to do. So we're setting up 4 tables or areas for them, where we're going to have some graduate students, and hopefully some adult experts as well, but I'm putting most of this, nice ringtone. It's okay. I'm putting most of it, honestly, onto the graduate students, because I really think this is a great opportunity for them to lead and to be teachers and to really interact with these kids, which I think will be really fun for them. And of course to network and all of those things. So these information tables are sectioned the way that the CQ is sectioned. And I don't know how many of you have actually read through the projects on the CQ document. I didn't give you a whole lot of time with it, so I apologize if you didn't see it yet. But basically there are 4 categories. So the first one is poverty, development, and sustainability, and there are 2 projects being proposed. One is creating incentives for volunteering for organizations like UNICEF, because so many people want to do community work but cannot possibly afford to give up a job to do so, right? And then, as I said, the second one is water purification and access program, okay? Second category is education. And within education, you have 2 projects being proposed. And mind you, I made all of this up, just to be clear. Yeah, I made up all of these projects. Enough creative writing background and teaching skill, you know, all that. So none of these are real projects, but they're based on real projects. So education has one on new school facilities and one on increasing teacher capacity. Or increasing teacher education through a program a little bit like Teach for America, where there would be an incentive and, you know, educational debt would be paid off by going out into rural schools, that kind of thing. The third category is gender equity, and there we have an initiative specifically on getting your girls to school and keeping them in school, and an initiative that's connected to microloans for women, for female entrepreneurs who are small family businesses, that kind of thing. And then the last category is health, and there we have, somebody help me, for some reason I'm forgetting my health ones. The rural, oh yes, that's it. Okay, so rural clinics. This is the building of rural clinics, in areas that don't have hospitals at all yet. And the second one was capacitation of local healers or traditional healers. Now, mind you, I am very well aware of a lot of assumptions that I've written into this, and that's on purpose. I'm also aware of omissions that are written into this on purpose. Meaning, for example, there's an assumption, just as an example, that formal medicine is better than traditional medicine. So the government's going to come in and fix all these traditional healers, right, with formal medicine. That's a huge assumption, which I hope the kids will catch, right? Same thing with building schools, right? To make the assumption that you can build a bunch of schools and fix the educational system when there's nothing really about teacher quality anywhere in the document at all, right? Again, one of those pitfalls of development. build a nice big building, but there are no tables and chairs or good teachers inside. There's a problem, right? So that's the whole idea, is that we want them to be thinking about this for themselves. So they get to do the inquiry. They will, during their downtime, get to walk around to these different tables and pick up these little slips that tell them about the projects. They'll get to talk to the graduate students and find out more about the projects and about the problems behind them. I'm also encouraging the graduate students to mention other things that they think are important within their fields, because remember that option 9 is build your own projects, right? So that's why we're giving them those 5 days to think for themselves, and we're making sure that all the people involved are authoring things outside of my 8 projects as well, so that kids are thinking on their own. To be honest with you, I was really impressed last year when the winning CQ room took their $800 million and decided where every dollar went themselves. They just completely ignored the entire system of projects that we had offered to them and came up with their own. Not necessarily a better set of solutions, but what a great sign that kids are able to innovate like that, you know, able to think for themselves and think outside the box. So that's very much something that we want to do. All of this then, of course, is designed so that when they get into that room, they all have an equal playing field. They all understand the solutions as well as they have investigated them. And if they don't understand them, it's because they didn't investigate them, in which case the onus is on them, right? That they need to go out and inquire and find out about these things, and they'll have more than 5 minutes to do so. Does that all make sense?
How much cultural, geographic, political knowledge are they expected to have of Yemen?
Not a ton, not a ton, and that is the hardest thing about doing it at this level. I have to say the graduate students have been very frustrated, I think, in that sense, because in a lot of ways it feels like they're playing elementary school from their perspective as grad students, because we can't get into all the layers of complexity. But if you take a look at the background brief that's been written up on it, they've got at least a sense of the history and problems that have been written into the CQ, and then each category comes with a box of most important statistics connected to it, each set of projects, in other words, if that makes sense. So yeah, we can't give them every bit of information, obviously, but that's again part of why we're bringing in the keynote speaker at the beginning and trying to create opportunities for them to talk to a variety of people. And right now, most of the graduate students I'm working with actually have come to me through professors at Korbel who are working in topics related to Yemen and its neighboring countries and the transitions going on in the Middle East. So,
I mean, there's been a low-grade civil war going on in Yemen
for a long time.
A long time.
Yeah.
And now it looks as if the Mubarak-Gaddafi revolution is going to arrive there as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I have to tell you, it was really interesting to try to choose the country, because we made the decision we wanted to do this nation building idea, but it was kind of a bittersweet, funny, sort of not so funny moment when we were trying to decide, because I obviously would like to see positive transitions happen everywhere, but what we were doing was sitting around the table saying, okay, which country is least likely to explode before April so that we could do the simulation effectively? Do you know what I mean? At the same time that all of us were sitting there saying, pro Yemen, like, you know, something needs to change, but not before April, please. So yes, absolutely. There are a lot of layers of complexity that they don't understand, and that actually is another thing that you guys really bring to the table in the CQ. That's part of why I really think that the CQ judging is the most important and really the hardest part of what you do, because that would be a very, you know, if you notice them missing that kind of stuff in their dialogue, you know, bring in some things to think about, you know, and not in such a way as to say, you know, didn't you know that, but, you know, here's something that I know, how does that change how you're viewing the solutions that you come up with, right? And get them thinking outside the box.